What's happening, troops? How we doing? You know it's bad when it's a solo Corbett podcast from his Harry Potter cupboard. uh, we wanted to get some content out. First, I'll issue an apology to everybody that listens. Without you guys, this isn't a podcast, and we'd never have had any of the things that we've had in life. And over the last few months, it's not really been good enough in terms of output, content. I stepped away for a bit because obviously, for anybody that knows me personally, will know my life is 100 miles an hour when it comes to Hearts. I do the podcast. Obviously, I coordinate and work with the Ultras. I am one of the Ultras. It's between myself, Freddie, and Wilson. We started it, got it off the ground and running, and with that, it's a 24/7 job. It's constant. It's not just working with the other folk that are in it and try to keep them sensible and on the straight and narrow, and it's working with the club, it's working with the SLO, it's working with the head of security. It's every Thursday there's security briefings and meetings about what's happening in the next game, what access we have, what access we don't have. Then it's obviously dealing with, we talk to Big Hearts and work with Big Hearts closely. I work with the Foundation Hearts closely. It's constant. It is constant. I obviously spend a lot of time talking to Laurie and Scott and the guys from Scarfs Around the Funnel. We speak constantly. I talk to Joel Sked. I talk to Gordon Duncan at Sky Sports News. Constant. It's just 100 mile an hour Hearts all the time. And obviously when we play poorly or we get bad results and things don't go our way, it's like an avalanche of all angles, people coming to me, telling me bits of stories and boardroom dramas between all the boards that we have, the Foundation board, the Federation board, the actual Hearts board, trying to keep the boys engaged and all the dramas that come with running an Ultras group, which you would never believe. It's strenuous is what it is. So I obviously said to the guys that I've got two young kids. I've got a young family. I got an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old now. And I'll tell you the story, mate. So I'll tell you to speak up if you're ever struggling. So I kind of tell that to you and then share it myself. It was my wife's birthday in February. She turned 40 and it was a birthday she was struggling with. She didn't want to turn 40, as most people don't. I turned 40 in September, but I'm not really that. I'm not arsed about it, knowing where I've come from in life to where I am now. Age is just a number. I'm proud of myself as to where I've got. But we were supposed to have a small party thing in the house for my wife, and it got cancelled because my kids get hand, foot and mouth disease, so we weren't allowed to do anything. So anyway, the story is that on the Saturday, the day that the party was supposed to be happening, Hearts weren't even playing. We played Hibs the next game day. But my two little girls had decided that because the party had been cancelled for mum, that they wanted to cheer her up in case she'd been upset that she wasn't going to see her friends and family, and they felt a bit responsible because they were obviously ill. Not a naked day about it, but that's how it was. So they went away and they prepared for a dance show, a dance routine. Both my girls are obsessed with dancing. My oldest girl is an award-winning dancer. She loves it. She competes in competitions, wins trophies all the time. She's obsessed with dancing, something that we encourage her to do massively. And anyway, so they went away. They came down with their wee outfits on and all that sort of stuff to perform this show for their mum. And I kind of, not had an outer body experience, that's a bit too dramatic, right? But as a kid, my mum and dad were massive supporters of everything that I did. Remember, there was a band for people enough called the London Boys. If you Google them, it's embarrassing. But I was obsessed with the London Boys when I was like 5, 6. Sang their songs, danced all the dance routines, made up dance routines for it. And they used to wear leather trousers and have chains and stuff coming off their jeans and their jackets. And my dad and mum would go out sourcing little leather jackets and little outfits that I wanted to wear and get changed to put on my outfits. And just, a family came round, they'd set up a stage, watch Liam perform this, look how good he is at dancing, look at all this type of stuff. They were the huge encouragers of me. And obviously for people that know me personally, later on in life I've toured Europe with a touring band. I've played every major festival in the UK. I still make money from my music now. So, all of that stuff helped. My dad planted the seed with playing the guitar when I was a wee boy. He never sat me down, he never put a guitar in front of me, he never forced me to ever play the guitar. But he used to sit in his bedroom playing tunes on the guitar. I'd be lying in my bed at night and I'd be shouting through, "Dad, play an Erasure song," so we could sing it. Play Oasis, play Queen, play something, and we'd have a wee sing along before we went to bed. And that planted the seed for me to be like, I want to play the guitar, I want to be like my dad. So that on the Saturday, it's 3 o'clock, 3:30 on a Saturday afternoon, and my girls have come down, they've sat their mum down, and they're performing their wee hearts out. Their music's playing, they're dancing. I'm there, but I'm not there. I think Motherwell were beating Rangers at Ibrox. I'm getting wound up because there was Hearts fans in our community chat celebrating the fact that Rangers were losing, and all I could think about was, we're in a fight for the top 6 with Motherwell. That's annoying me, that people are celebrating. They can't get their hatred for Rangers away. They're celebrating the fact that something that we couldn't beat Rangers, and Motherwell are going to get 3 points that we potentially aren't going to have, and it's going to put them ahead of us in the league. And then also, my best pal's back, he's playing for Falkirk now. And they were playing Hamilton away, and they weren't winning. So people were texting me to say that he was having a terrible game. And I'm arguing back to people that are watching a game that I can't see, that I've got no control over, but I'm arguing back, blaming John McGlynn's tactics or other Falkirk players for not playing well. I'm fighting and biting back to Hearts fans in the group chat saying, you take Ken that Motherwell winning's terrible for us, that's awful for us. And all the while, I'm not watching my kids. I'm not there. I'm there in person, but I'm not paying any attention. I couldn't tell you what the song was, what they were doing. And then, and it was just, I don't know, it was that moment where I realised, wait a minute, this has to change. Right now I've got 24/7 access to my emotions, my mental health. What a beautiful moment this is. I should be sitting encouraging my girls like my mum and dad did with me. I should be filming it. I should be enjoying it, smiling, laughing, clapping, whatever it is. And I'm not. I'm a million miles away. I'm arguing about a game in Hamilton that I'm not watching. I'm getting upset at about a game in Glasgow that I'm not at. It doesn't involve any of my teams. And it's been like that constant. I've got my community chat on WhatsApp. And I love it. I love the podcast. Everything you've done has been amazing. I absolutely buzz off it. There are people in Malaysia. There are people in Japan. There are people in Australia, New Zealand. There are people in America that listen to the podcast, speak to me on WhatsApp all the time, telling me about, how it keeps them connected to the club and all that stuff. And I treasure that like nothing on earth. But what I found is that because I've got the community chat, I could get up in the middle of the night to go to the toilet 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and somebody that's 8, 9 hours in front or behind, wherever they are in the world, might have, posted a link to Hibs fans singing Sunshine on Leaf, saying, "Oh, play this to the players, this makes me sick, the players should be embarrassed," or whatever. It's 3 o'clock in the morning and I'm triggered. I'm annoyed. Went up for a pee in the middle of the night and I sit awake for an hour and a half thinking about how bad Hearts were and what the board should do and how this should hit. And it got to the point where I was like, this is unhealthy. This isn't, it's not worth it. And the same when we did the demonstration in January, when I was standing there watching it, actually, when people started to show up, I was like, shit, I didn't want people to be standing at the front of the stadium shouting abuse at a board, or I didn't want them to do anything silly and smash the place up or whatever. I just want the board to realise that their decisions impact us. But when I was standing watching it, I was like, shit, I've brought a mob to Tynecastle and people are going to want us to do something. And then it was like, I try to tell people, didn't do anything because we didn't want to be an angry mob because we lose the argument. If we start screaming abuse at Anne Budge, people will rightly say, well, what was the point in that? Like, you're abusing a 76-year-old woman or whatever it is. And everything's just got on top of us. Everything's just got too much. So I was like, I've taken a step back. So obviously I said that to Ando, Kev and Tam. They were like, we'll podcast, whatever. Ando's just got a brand new job, an exciting job. He travels the UK all the time with his job. So, obviously his priority and focus will be on establishing himself in a new role. Kev works in the same place as me. He works 24/7. He's all access all the time to his work. He's been on holiday. He's moved, he's got his things going on, and then Tam as well. And again, the other guys, Ando, Tam or Kev, they're potentially not confident enough to do this. None of us are media trained. We are all Joe Public, right? We all work normal jobs. We're not media trained. I just talk shite for a living. That's what I do. Yeah, I can't, because of my mental health, my anxiety, panic attacks or whatever. I've got to speak. I've got to get whatever's on my chest off my chest, because I can't carry it with me or it'll drown me as this is snowballed into this here. So I apologise for the output. That was got deep there. We'll get some light-hearted banter in a minute. Hearts lost the semi-final. We've got loads to cheer. We've got loads to cheer us up. But I just wanted to give a bit of context as to where I've been. All right, I just had to take a step back. I had to focus on myself, focus on my family, make sure that I got the balance right. And I feel healthier for it now. I feel okay. Like I said, I've been drip feeding myself back in to Hearts. I've been going to watch Falkirk. My friend's been in America for 2 years where we've not seen him, and it's not just him. His wife and kids are like my family as well. His kids are best friends with my kids. I get to see his mum, his brother, his aunties, all this stuff that we've had for ages. That went away, and you're watching from afar. I couldn't get over to Charlotte because of how much it costs and where it is, and they weren't really settled either. They were living in and out of different places and hotels and stuff. So to have them back here has been like a good pressure relief, if that's the way to say it. I can go watch Falkirk where it's hassle free. Watching one guy, I don't really care if Falkirk win or lose. I just want him to do well, and luckily he's been doing amazing since he came back. But there's just, like I said, there's been loads of things that built up. So I feel in a better place now to come back. I also don't want to keep coming on week after week saying the same stuff. All right, I get that there will be people in their support that don't want the world to burn, that are happy with how things are. And that's completely sound. That's completely and utterly up to you. That's your choice. When I make my bold declarations or get things off my chest, I'm not trying to convince anybody to think the same as me. I'm just giving you my opinion. Sometimes it's total slavers. Sometimes I think I'm pretty spot on, and I take no pleasure from being right. 9 times out of 10 I'll side on the fact that something won't work right, because whether it doesn't work after a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a year, 2 years, you're eventually going to be right, because that's the nature of football. So things got a bit on top of us. The podcast has suffered. We haven't put enough material out. So I apologise to all of you, because again, I said it last week, say it again this week. Foot people listening, foot people downloading, foot people getting in contact with us, foot people buying the merch, foot people backing what we do, talking to us. I love talking to folk at the games and that as well. We wouldn't be here. So the last wee while we've let you in. We should have been podcasting more. We're not hiding away from it or whatever. Just like I said, the guys aren't that competent at doing this by themselves. They kind of like having me there to be the focal point. And for me, I just take a wee step back, just to get the equilibrium back in my life, get back in an even keel. For the people that know me, that means that I've deleted WhatsApp, I've deleted Safari, I've deleted emails, everything. You can SMS text me or you can send me a letter, because I've got a Nokia 3210. That is literally where my life is right now. And that will come on to a subject where WhatsApp's pushed me towards more is things like kickback. I've been reading a lot of kickback over the last wee while, and again, that hasn't helped. That hasn't helped my mental health in any way, shape or form. Sorry, my computer just absolutely glitched, so I was trying to figure out what the hell was happening. Right, there we go. So that hasn't helped any way, shape or form. But, and again, right now you go on those websites or the fan forums or Facebook or Twitter or whatever, you can see that right now that we're divided battle lines again, infighting, everybody's got different opinions on the manager, the board, the people, and all that stuff. And it's always happens when Hearts underperform. And it's hard not to get riled by it. It's hard not to bite. It's hard not to, try to bring everybody to your way of thinking. So we're all right. We're back. The podcast will be weekly as much as we possibly can do. And again, we just appreciate everybody sticking with us and listening and all that sort of stuff. So there you go. There's the spiel done. That's the serious stuff, the deep stuff done. Now let's talk about the light-hearted semi-final defeat to Aberdeen. First and foremost, I think the best starting place for me was pre-game. It's strange that I met my Auntie Ange, Marky, Louise, their daughter Violet. It was her first trip to Hampden. Marky, his dad, Fowley's, was an unbelievable guy. One of my absolute heroes growing up. He died way too soon. But him and my dad are the reason that I'm Hearts fans. Met them on the steps, buzzing to see them. They've been like my family my whole entire life. Every good memory I've got in life involves that family. And to meet them was great. So many great memories. We all went dressed up as Elvis in 2006 for the cup win versus Gretna. The Hibs semis. We were there in '96 and we get pumped 5-1. We were there in the Coca-Cola Cup final. All that stuff. And talking to people before the game, that general, I wasn't buzzing for the game. It's a Scottish Cup semi-final. That used to mean so much. And I can't make my mind up if that's because we've become entitled. If it's us, if it's our outlook, or if it's just the general feeling about this team, the club, the malaise around the club right now because we're underperforming. But just before the game, outside Hampden, there was just no real buzz or atmosphere for me. No one that I spoke to seemed very confident. And then the team news came, we were still persisting on a diamond, and people just seemed generally flat. And I tried to put my finger on what it is. And again, I can only go on what I remember growing up. And Hearts have always been plucky. And that's the thing right now, that when I look at the club and people say they don't connect to the club, or the heartsness has been lost in the club. And I think days like Saturday are kind of what people are referring to, because Cammy Devlin maybe, Craig Gordon because he's a club legend, they're about the only people that I kind of not relate to, but I grew up with Robbo, John Cahoon, Gary Mackay, Dave McPherson, Henry Smith, Tosh McKinley, Zico, and then went on to Stephen Presley, and Paul Hartley, and Robbie Nielsen, and Craig Gordon, and then you've got Rudy. People that you like. I hate when people say, "Oh, they got it," or they get Hearts, but there were those players that had the ability to do something mental and change a game. And I would say plucky. I went to the Airdrie game, '95, whenever it was when we lost in the semi-final. That was my first trip to Hampden. Then, that I can remember. Then we went to the Aberdeen game, where again, it's a pretty dull, uneventful game, but Robbo pops up, scores the winner in injury time or whatever it is to send us through to the Scottish Cup final. Then you look at the semi-final versus Hibs. We score 4, we go through. Callum Elliott's right in the keeper's face as he's running past him, getting it right up him. Paul Hartley scored a hat-trick. He's running the length of the pitch to celebrate with us. Jankowskis gets it, scores his goal. We're going to win the cup. Then you look at 2012. We beat Celtic. We had 2 cup finals that year. We beat Celtic in the semi. A last-minute penalty. Unheard of, and we'll come on to the referee on Saturday as well. And just even look through games like John McGlynn's Hearts. They go to Anfield and get a draw. They actually only lost 1-0 at home at Tynecastle. I'm sure it was an own goal. We played out our skin that day. We went 5 levels above where we are, or where we should have been given the team, the players that we have. Craig Levine, Swannon, Ball, we beat Braga, we beat Bordeaux. These are all things that we grew up on. We beat Bayern Munich at home, Leipzig, all these iconic days where the clubs went 2, 3, 4 levels above. where it should be and punched well above its weight. It's been plucky. Roy of the Rovers type stuff. And I've said for years and years and years now that we almost win every game we're meant to and lose every game that we're meant to. Rosenborg's probably the last Roy of the Rovers type game where we were down and out and we came back. You know, like we're 4-2 down in the 92nd minute of the Edinburgh Derby at Tynecastle. We come back and we draw 4-4. You know, we are a goal down at Easter Road and we score 2 in the last 5 minutes to win 2-1. Stampy gets the goal. Like, again, there's the Austin McCann goal versus Celtic, the last minute screamer winner. And I feel that we've just lost it. We've just lost it. And on Saturday, at no point during the game, before the game, did I think that we were going to go win this game. The events of the game, there's just something about it. So there was that before the game, there's just no real excitement, and I think that's what drives the apathy right now. And I don't know what's to blame for that. I don't know if it's because it's football, modern football now. It's going that way. The connection between fan and team and stuff. It's a bit of a myth now in terms of where we are. Don't know if it's because we are stagnating a bit in terms of where we are. Like, I look at the Robbie Nielsen semi-final versus Hibs. You know, Halkett, Kingsley, Barry Mackay, Liam Boyce, even though he's left, Craig Gordon, Cammy Devlin, Benny. They're all still here. That was 3 years ago, and we've not really kicked on. There's a bit of unrest in terms of players. Our best player, our best striker since Robbo, doesn't want to be here. He's not going to sign a new contract. We've got our club legend and an absolute hero that we all worship, and I've said 1,000 times in this podcast to anybody that listens to it, that he will be probably, in my opinion, the greatest ever Hearts player that we've ever had. He's the only player that I've ever seen in a Hearts jersey that I've considered genuine, not just fan talk, genuine world class. So I don't know if it's that, but there was something before the game when I was there. I think back in the day, I'd have been in the pub, you know, in 2006 in the semi at Hibs. Of me and the boys for Deans, we went through on the Saturday. We've stayed in the hotel. You know, we've took a minibus through. We've stayed in the hotel. We've made a weekend of it. Same at Celtic. We were the exact same. Party bus through to the game. It was here on Saturday. It just, I don't know. It just didn't feel as sort of exciting as what it normally does to be in a Scottish Cup semi. So that was pre-game. That was where I was thinking. Seeing the team, I was disappointed to see the diamond again. But then the game starts. I actually thought Hearts played very, very well at phases of the game. I thought we started very, very brightly, creating chances, half chances. McCarthy's a half chance, but we're getting corners. I thought the front three were brilliant. That's why Shankland has to play. And I get that we need more from Shankland, 100%. I'm right there with you. But Shankland is the most intelligent player that we have in the forward areas. Cabangu. He's raw. I'm not going to say I don't rate him. I think he's scored goals. He's scored important goals for us. And if he hadn't scored, God knows where we would be. And he definitely has potential there. Again, a pre-season, getting to learn the league, getting a bit more adapted, a bit more settled in the team, definitely is going to be a good player and a goal scorer. But there's still just that naivety in his play. He goes to the wrong positions. He drifts. He's always offside. Not always, that's an exaggeration, but he can find himself offside, etc. And then the ice in your veins moments, he just doesn't have. He had an opportunity for Aberdeen, scored. He should have done better. He didn't. And then James Hodgson's young. So again, you need Shankland there to link. You need Shankland there to keep them engaged and keep them in the right places, and to move the ball forward as well. I thought we started very, very well. Aberdeen didn't look like they could handle our shape, our formation, the intensity in which we were playing. I actually thought Benny and Devlin were absolutely superb. Cammy Devlin I've been a huge, not detractor of, but I think that there's aspects of his game where he's just not good enough, and there are aspects of his game where he's absolutely superb. But everything about what we just spoke about there about pre-game, what I want a Hearts player to be, if actually, but what we've seen from Saturday on from Cammy Devlin is what I want a Hearts player to be. He gave everything that he's got, and Benny's just superb. Benny was brilliant. He wins balls when he shouldn't. He can get out of tight spaces, and his ability to pass is superb. We said before, I just wish he carried the goal for it. There was an opportunity at one point, might have been the first half of extra time, where Devlin could have dummied it. It was a cutback, but they're in the edge of the box, but Benny was in a better position. If Devlin could have dummied it and stepped over it, but we all know that he's not going in. Even if he did, Ben's getting the ball, he's not shooting. But I thought they were brilliant. I thought we started very, very well. Then obviously, I don't think it's unfair to say it's a bit of a sucker punch. It was their first foray really into our half, the first corner, and it's just sloppy. It's a goal that I think you'll have heard any coverage of Hearts from any podcast or any media outlet. It's been our Achilles heel this year. Went all of last season and didn't concede a single goal from a set play, and now it feels like we could be susceptible to goals from any number of set plays, crosses, balls into the box. Gordon's unlucky in terms of it comes off the bar and goes in off him, but again, this is one of the things that really, really upsets me about Craig Gordon currently, and I think we said this at the start of the season about I don't want to watch Craig Gordon diminish as a goalkeeper. I want to remember Craig Gordon as the absolute greatest goalkeeper that Hearts have ever had, that Scotland have ever produced. He's 6'4", he's 7 foot with his hands up in the air. The headers on the edge of the 6-yard box. Maybe old school, maybe it's a way of zonal marking, maybe Gordon feels he's more capable of making saves point blank, which we've seen later on in the game with his world-class save. But I'm looking for a goalkeeper to come and smash everybody out of the way and punch that ball, catch that ball, or just be a bit more commanding in the area. And he's not to blame for the goal. The goal is what it is. But I'm looking and thinking, could he potentially come and get that? Could he come and punch it? Could he wipe out someone? Or just be a bit more on the front foot with it? But it's a good header. It comes off the bar and goes in off him. There's nothing really that you can do about it. And then to be fair to the team, I thought, here we go again. Here we go. Given the season, given where we're at, I thought the arse was going to collapse. I thought we were going to get run over the top of, but actually it kind of kicked us into gear again. And we started back. It was a wee wobble for 2, 3, 4 minutes after the goal. I think the Keskinen or whatever he's called had an opportunity that he floated past the post. But after that, we got a real foothold in the game and again started dictating play, and the goal comes from exactly what you would expect Hearts to be doing, and the ball falls to the guy that I want all of our chances to fall to. And that's the thing. I know he's not scored loads of goals, but he missed a really bad chance against Motherwell, so I get that argument. But we're creating chances for Elton, we're creating chances for Wilson, we're creating chances for Grant. It's 1 in 10 is falling to the man that we want it to fall to in Shankland, and that finish is exactly everything that you want from Lawrence Shankland. I think that was Lawrence Shankland's third goal at Hampden in 3 seasons. So those goals are, I know he's dried up this season and we've really suffered from it, but there will come a point where we were going to really miss Lawrence Shankland, everything about him. His movement, his play, his hold-up play. Like I said, he's a very intelligent football player when he's at it, and I'm not defending him. He's been miles off it this season, and at points I think he's been moody, drifted in and out of games, and could have done well better than what he has this season. I'm not making excuses for him, but we get the goal and we look fine. We look fine in the game. And then obviously the turning point of the match comes when we're caught the ball over the top, and Steinbinder slides in as he's entitled to do to try and win the ball, but Aberdeen boy gets there in front of him, and this is where it's not going to be controversial, I don't think. I agree with both arguments. I agree with Neil Critch's comments after the game. We're watching it real time. I always do, I look along the line, see if he was offside. but I'm catching the eye of watching the ref to see what the ref does. His hand is there. His hand's in his pocket immediately, and I think Neil Critchley's right to say that he could have let it breathe, took a second to see where everything was, get a lay of the land, then make his decision. But I also agree that it's a red card. For me, it's a red card. I would want that if that was vice versa. I understand the argument. We've got Forrester coming over and covering, and he's still a long way from goal. So I can see both sides of the arguments, but I can understand why there was a red card there. So it was what it was. My argument would be, from a Hearts perspective, if we can be better. Again, we've spoke about it there. If it's Kasper Schmeichel or Joe Hart or whoever, and the referee knows and everybody knows that actually Joe Hart or Schmeichel's going to be on his 18-yard box anyway because of the way that we play and the way that we go. If he's going to be 20 yards, then the referee maybe thinks, well, yeah, you've knocked it past there, but the sweeper keeper's there. He's going to get it there, or Forrester and the sweeper keeper's there. The fact that Craig Gordon's neither, and we've seen that indecision actually in the first half as well, where he was going to come and he didn't come, and then he did come and he almost gave away a penalty. So there's loads of factors. I think Hearts were sloppy in that turnover of possession. They gave the referee a decision to make, and John Beaton, for anybody that has been living under the rock, is a horrendous referee. You can't give that man the opportunity to punish Hearts. You'll have seen the stats, you'll have seen everything that's come out today with the statement as well from Hearts, that when he can give a favour again, a decision against us, he will, as we then go on to show later in the game. So that was a big turning point, and then Hearts, it was obviously just a case of getting at half time and adjust. I've seen people, I thought Hearts played from that minute till the end of the game, including extra time. I thought Hearts played very, very well. I didn't agree with the substitutions. I agreed, and I understand the theory. I understand that we need to shore it up. But for me to bring on two defenders and take off two strikers was almost, right, we're going to play for 75 minutes and hope for penalties, because I didn't. So wait, that maybe trigger folk. Let me explain first and foremost. When the teams came back out and we'd brought the two defenders on and went to a back three with Forrester and Penrice to be the wing backs, Grant, Benny, Devlin in the middle, and Shanklin up front by himself. Everybody around about me was saying, I can't believe he's taking two strikers off, all that stuff. And I was like, I get it. Let's see how we settle. We're down to 10 minutes, a big, massive pitch. Let's see what the plan is, because I could totally and utterly understand opening 10, 15 minutes of the second half. Let's just get back into the game, settle down, get into shape, let everybody understand where they're playing, and then go build and grow and try and get into the game, which I understood made sense to me. Aberdeen as well, and for me this is why I'm saying that I thought it was a mistake to bring on the two defenders, because as the game progressed in the second half, it became pretty clear that we're not, this is the game plan. This is the game plan. There's no second wave coming, there's no plan B coming, there's no growing into the game and then try and kick on. This was the game. The game was get to extra time, get to penalties, because that's where we're going to win the game. And Aberdeen were rubbish, really poor. They were a really poor team. They couldn't handle breaking us down, but also they were petrified whenever we broke. 2 or 3 times in the second half when we did manage to get out, Penrice managed to get to the byline, a couple of cutbacks. They were in disarray. Whenever we broke from the low block, the 5-3-1, whenever we broke from that, they were petrified. And then it put them back into their shell. Aberdeen were horrendous. And as the game went on in the second half, I expected to see Spittle, Musa, somebody to come on, get closer to Shanklin, say, listen, let's go for this here. Let's go for it. You could have even said, right, take Forrester off, go to the back four, Kingsley right back, Kent and Halkett and Penrice, sit Benny, and then push, take Grant off and push a Spittle up behind Shankland. Spittle could shoot for distance, he might be able to score. And bringing Khartoum on before he brought on Spittle, I thought was wrong as well, given that I don't think Khartoum so far has got up to speed with Scottish football, and not in that type of game and not in the role we were asking him to play. So I understood why we took the two defenders off. In theory, I thought it was a good idea to build and grow into the game, but as the second half progressed, I thought, we're not doing anything different here. We are literally just hanging on to get to penalties, and we just kept inviting Aberdeen on. And luckily Aberdeen were poor. Like I said, they didn't know how to get past us, and I didn't think they had a shot on target until they scored. But again, I just felt that was, I don't know, I expect more from that in a semi-final. I can understand why you went for it, but there's 22,000 Hearts fans there. We could have galvanised the fact that we weren't getting decisions off beaten. He was terrible through the whole game, in terms of he was letting some things go for them and then not for us. He was pulling things back when it didn't need to be. He was just being John Beaton. That's what he does. He's very, very poor. And as the game progressed, we just seemed to be clinging on for penalties. And then obviously the game plan's 3 minutes away from working to perfection. Cammy Devlin has shown a ridiculous second yellow card, and we are down to 9 men. And I don't think any of the two of them are bookings. I think that Hearts fans are justified to be annoyed at that. The first booking, if we're going to go by the letter of the law, it doesn't matter that it was offside, play developed, maybe it's a booking, maybe. But given what, you have to take it into context of the full game, given what John Beaton had let go, had not booked him for, it was very, very harsh to book Cammy Devlin for that, given that he hadn't booked Shinnie for similar, he hadn't booked, who's the other guy in the middle, Clarkson in the middle. There'd be a couple, the big centre half guy as well, 2 or 3 times all over the back of Shankland where we won free kicks, no booking. So I think he's very, very, it was a very, very harsh yellow, but the second one's a nonsense. The second one's a total nonsense. And again, is it Cammy Devlin's reputation? Is that why? Is that why he gets the booking? So, and that's not a criticism of Cammy Devlin, by the way. That's not his fault. That's just how bad a referee John Beaton was. And then you're thinking, right, now the plan has fallen apart. Because even when you looked at the substitutions, Shankland has cramp has to go off. I figured the game plan was to take it to penalties here. Who's even on the pitch that's going to take a penalty? Benny said after the St Mirren game that he had to put Goggs the kit man up first because he didn't know what to hit a penalty. So he's not what to hit a penalty. You're then looking at Kingsley, Penrice, Khartoum, Musa, Halkett, Kent. I just thought that they, to hang on for penalties, for me, played Aberdeen a compliment they didn't deserve. They were not that good a team, and we shouldn't have feared them. And then obviously you 9, if you take 99 out of 100 shots, one of them's going to break for you. Again, if you want to be harsh, I don't know if Craig Gordon can do a little bit better, but he had credit in the bank because he made an unbelievable world-class save. I think it was in the first half, the extra time, which saves us and puts us in that position to concede that goal later on anyway. So I just think it was, like I said, ball in, a flick, he's got it down, he saved it well, and the guys reacted quicker. My disappointment would be that actually we've put 3 at the back, and he's managed to find a space in between the 3 of them, which is a bit disappointing considering that's what they were there to do. But they were, again, you're looking at Halkett and Kingsley and Kent, their first games back in months or whatever. So McCart was there as well, sorry. So disappointing to concede how we did, but again, I think that what we've moaned about, if we'd seen that level of commitment and guts last Saturday versus Motherwell, we'd be talking about this weekend's games in the top six and still being in the opportunity in the hunt to potentially sneak in the back door for European football. If we'd had that guts and the stuff for the Dundee United game at home at Tynecastle, again, these are all if, buts and maybes, but that's what I found a bit disappointing, is that the team has it in them to play that way. It's just something's not clicking. So I think that the team gave everything. I thought we played very, very well. I don't think the manager made huge critical errors that costed the game. I think there has to be a point, and I actually think the fans seen that and acknowledged that at the end. There was a bit in the first half where we booed, and I think we were right to boo at the time. We were really sloppy where we were. We sort of drifted out of the game, and it kind of stopped us from putting our head down as a team, puffed our chest out a bit again. Everything we asked, we get the equaliser, and we grew into the game. And I think at the end, I think the fans acknowledged that what a monumental effort for where we are. You're up against Beaton, you're up against Aberdeen, you're down to 10 men. There's players that were dead on their feet. I thought Benny was superb, as I said. I thought Devlin was absolutely brilliant. Shankland was brilliant up until the cramp as well. I think for Halkett, Kent and Kingsley coming back, they were colossus in terms of the one headers. They were really. It's clear to see that they are still the best defenders that we have at the club, which is a bit worrying considering what Jamestown is all about, but also great for us because if they could come back and stay fit, which has always been the biggest thing, Halkett is still the best defender at the club. Kingsley's probably still the best defender at the club, and Kent's still one of the best defenders at the club. So it's good for moving forward, and I think the fans reacted to that at the end. They stayed, they got a good round of applause off the park. The fans acknowledged that actually, we have given everything that we offer. You're beaten on the day, and that's football. Sometimes you just have to accept that. We've been there before where we've been lucky and got the goal when we maybe didn't deserve it, or we've had things go our way. So you have to take it. So overall, it's a disappointment to go out, but I thought we played well. I thought that we played well. Like I said, my only criticism would have been about the growing into the game with the two substitutions at half time. There just didn't seem to be anything other than we're just going to hold out for pens, and maybe that's sort of systematic or a symbolic of where we are, as a club right now in terms of the confidence and how we're feeling as a team, that actually instead of somebody going and grabbing the game by the scruff of the neck and going and try to kick on and get a Roy of the Rovers type thing where we win, even though we're up against it and we've had all these wrongs in the game, but yet we still went on and won. So disappointed to be out, but the game that's football. I always say there's a right and a wrong way to lose football matches, but that was definitely a performance that you can take away and say, right, yep, they gave everything. It just fell short. It was just the way that is. So fair enough. The one thing that I would end this on, and this, I don't know if this is going to annoy people, and it's not him as a player because his footballing ability, but one of the things that caught my eye on Saturday that I'm desperate to have at Hearts is, you can belittle them all you like, but I'd bend over backwards to have a player of Graham Shinney's ilk. Not because he's good at football or what, but just everything about him is not what he's a bastard. He is an absolute bastard on the football pitch, and we don't have that. We don't have enough of that. He ran the game. He wanted the ball. He demanded the ball off all of his players. He was right wing, left wing, in the middle. He was driving forward. He was crossing balls in. He was making tackles. He was winding up Devlin. He was winding up the crowd. He was in the referee's ear. He dictated what was happening from a referee's point of view for the whole game. And we just didn't seem to have that as a club anywhere. We just didn't have enough bastards, and that people will laugh at that, but folk will know what I mean. We used to have Stephen Naismith as a player that he's that guy that opposition fans hate because they're jealous. They want a player like that because they don't have it themselves. And when we go through these phases where we try to be a bit experimental in terms of bringing coaches in for different leagues, and we want to go down this different route of bringing in players. We had it with the 17 guys we brought in under Craig Levein for Ian Cathro. They were off all different corners of the globe, but no experience in the Scottish game, and that's what we need. When you look at that and you think, like I said, Callum Elliott, Paul Hartley scores the opening goal in 2006, and Callum Elliott's right to Zibby in his face, getting it right up him. They're running past the Hibs fans, getting it right up them to come to us, and we just don't have enough of that. We don't have enough shithousery. We don't have enough people that are in the referee's ears. We're all too nice, and Cammy Devlin tries his best to do it, but he's Cammy Devlin. You know what I mean? He's 4'5" or whatever it is. He's like a Yorkshire Terrier nipping at somebody's heels. We need more people like that, and that's, I don't know if Jamestown will identify anybody like that, but a midfield enforcer, somebody that just, I keep thinking about it, and I've just said Cammy Devlin's 4'5", Neil McCann was 4'5", and like a Yorkshire Terrier, but Neil McCann decided in that Coca-Cola Cup final, this was his day. This was the platform. I'm winning that Coca-Cola bike for man of the match. I'm going to go out and give in the best performance that I have. I'm up against unbelievable players. I've got to be a 10 or even higher in my performance. And he went out and he was unbelievable. He just went for it. Rudy in the Scottish Cup final v Hibs, you know, it was his day, destiny. He knew that's what was happening. That's what he wanted. He scored in the semi to get us there. Always scores against Hibs. He had something about them that he hated, and he wanted to score against them all the time. Paul Hartley, Stephen Presley, Andy Webster, Craig Gordon, Robbie Nielsen, all these players that understood what it was to get in the fans' faces, to get fans on side, to wind up the opposition players, to wind up the referee, all that stuff. Aberdeen had guys on a booking, and I'm thinking to myself, put someone on them, go wind them up, go get them sent off. They'll do something. They'll react. It's an emotive game. It's a semi-final. It's a big game. Stand on his toes, get in his ears, nip him, pull his shirt, wind him up. Go do something, because we need to level the playing field here. If we go to 10 men each, then it's game on. And I just, when I watched Graham Shinney, I'm not saying I want Graham Shinney because he's a great football player, right? He's a limited football player. But he is Aberdeen's bastard, and we don't have that. And when I watched on Saturday, I was like, that's a captain. That's a captain. Our captain, if you look, our club captain doesn't want to be there. He's not signing a new contract. He wants to leave. And the team's captain, and the club captain is a renowned loner that doesn't speak to anybody. He's no vocal in the changing room. He's no that type of leader. He leads by how he makes saves and how good he is and all that stuff. And we need somebody in the middle of the park that is just 100 mile an hour everywhere, constant, just a total bastard. And that was the only thing that I was impressed with Aberdeen. It wasn't how they played or how he played. It was just about, when I was looking, I was like, I wish we had someone like that, because it's been a long time since we did. So disappointing. Season's over now. It'll be interesting to see where we go now, because we're 5 points above the playoff spot. We have a home game against Dundee now on Saturday, where realistically a win will ease any fears that we could potentially be drawn into that battle. But it's going to be as close to as meaningless a game as you can get. You'll be lucky if there's anywhere near a sellout for the game. And I think today the club's statement, I think that it's a very corporate statement. It's not as hard hitting as some fans would like, but I understand that they're a business and it's not really Hearts style. Whether that's right or wrong, we're not really like that as a club. So I think that's as hard hitting as Hearts are willing to go. But I think everything Hearts do is tactical. Everything. I spoke about it last week, and I'll talk about it again now as a highlight. You know, the stadium singing "Sack the Board" and singing songs about Anne Budge live on television when we failed to beat Petrol Club to qualify for the Conference League knockout stages. And within 24 hours, the Foundation of Hearts and Jerry Mallon had released a statement to say, everybody calm down, be united, blah, 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 stop shouting at us, essentially. I've told you before, the board used the Foundation of Hearts to push its message onto us, when the vehicle of the Foundation of Hearts is to push our messages onto the board. Shouldn't ever, ever, ever be roles reversed. But it was tactical. It was, that's why it was brought out. And Hearts have been, I think we've had worse decisions in other games where we haven't said anything. And obviously, like I said, we've cited the fact that the review panel, we now have the second highest, or the joint second highest mistakes in our games. Again, it's something that, the statement was tactical. I think it's a call to arms as how unlucky were we on Saturday, 11 men versus 12, the refs against us, we've been against us all season, all of that type of stuff. And I think it's just tactical. I think it's to try and unify people behind a common anger, which isn't the manager or the board for finishing the bottom six and not going to be in Europe and failing to reach the Scottish Cup final. So I think it's very tactical from Hearts. It's very telling as well at the end of it. I think they wish Neil Critchley all the best for the rest of the season, which for me is, unless we lose on Saturday, I think that puts an end to any chat that Neil Critchley will lose his job. I'm not going to bore anybody with right or wrong. I said it last week. Where my stance is, that won't change. There'll be nothing that will change until we do the first round of fixtures next season to see any progress. I think Neil Critchley's the wrong man for Hearts. I don't think he's got anything about him. I don't think he even deserves to have the job, but he has it. So he'll get my backing until he either proves me wrong or he proves me right. So far, he's proven me right with where he is. But if we're going to buy into Jamestown, then you have to jump all in, and that means that, rightly or wrongly, he's probably going to see out the remainder of the season unless we somehow find ourselves relegated, and then he's going to be trusted to have a pre-season. Now, I'm a huge believer in the reason that we're in the state that we're in was because of how shambolic pre-season was under Stephen Naismith last year. So you have the opportunity to have a pre-season. People that are pinning their hat on it being this big, robust, massive pre-season, I would say curb your enthusiasm, because we're going to be playing in the League Cup group stages. So we'll have a very truncated pre-season, but we will hopefully use the League Cup games as bounce games to get up to match sharpness and hope that we have the bounce that Aberdeen did going into the new season. But people need to remember that we have seen this story before, where we've had an underperforming manager with all of the warning signs that the guy's not got what it takes to be the Hearts manager, that the signings aren't embedding and helping Hearts get any better, Mallory Martin and the likes. So we've been here with Ian Caffrell, and Ian Caffrell never made the first game of the season because he failed to get out the group stages of the League Cup, and we sacked him. And then it meant, again, we wasted a transfer window bringing in players to play in a system for a manager that's no longer there. So again, that's my big worry. That's why I'm not going to bore anybody with it. You know that it's not going to change, right? It's not going to change until we are through the first round of fixtures next season before I even think about changing my mind. So I won't bore you on that. But I think that the club had to speak out. I said it's tactical why they've done it, but I don't disagree with what they've said in the statement. So that's what it is there. That's what it is. And I get the argument that people want it to be a bit more hard hitting, but from where Hearts are, that's as hard hitting as Hearts will get. Cool. Trying to think where else. Obviously, before the semi, and I think after the last podcast, I think, don't know if we touched on it, Forrester and Wilson have signed new deals at the club, which is good. Adam Forrester, I feel a bit sorry for, in terms of, he's been chucked in at the deep end because we just don't have anybody in that side of the park. But I thought he had a very solid game on Saturday. I thought he'd done well. So good news to be tying up youngsters. It's what the club want. It's what fans like to see. I've seen a bit of Macaulay Tate now because I'm obviously been following the championship. Seen a bit of Finlay Pollock as well. There's absolutely no harm in giving him an opportunity next season. From what we've seen, the Khartoum is no better or worse than either of the two. So let's see where we go. Vargas and the likes will probably leave in the summer or be moved on, I would imagine. So yeah, it's going to be a big pre-season. We've got 5 meaningless games now. I know some people say, well, they're not meaningless because we could be dragged into the relegation playoff spots, but you've got to hope or think that Hearts are too good for that. But you never know with this Hearts side. So yeah, there we go. Can't think of anything else. Obviously, next steps are a big thing. Being the bottom 6, I think I mentioned in last week's podcast, I spoke to someone connected to the club. Well, they work for the club, they're in part of the club, who said that their big fear is that the club didn't budget for bottom 6. The target set was to finish in the top 6 as an absolute bare minimum. And we could be looking at things like redundancies and stuff in the summer because we have a big gaping hole in the books. Because you've got to remember that the hospitality packages, for example, in the bottom 6 versus hospitality packages for a Edinburgh derby, a game versus Aberdeen and a game versus Celtic at Tynecastle, potentially a Celtic winning the league crowning game type thing. The club would have been banking on the hospitality suites on every stand selling out for those games, whereas now we're in the bottom 6. TV deals, the League Cup football next year, the fact that there's no European football whatsoever. I said last week about how much money the club has spent on the continual improvement of the facilities inside Tynecastle because they need to, from a European perspective. Season ticket sales, I know people will say it's still early or whatever, but only half the amount of people have renewed so far. The club will be worried. I think that, like I said, I think that's a tactical statement. That's why they brought the statement out. So yeah, I'm hoping that they're meaningless games from now to the end season, but you've got to hope that Hearts can go and win these games. If you can go 5 undefeated, bounce into the League Cup games, get some wins under your belt, by the time you're kicking off the start of next season, you'll be looking at 9 games undefeated for Hearts, or 9 wins in the bounce, or whatever it may be, to roll into the new season and start a season with some momentum. So you've got to hope that that's what we're hoping to see. I'm hoping that we see a bit of performance on Saturday. If anything, as a thank you for sticking with us, a sorry for where we're at. Andrew McKinley's update, he apologised the whole way through it. But again, we have to see some actions. Words were brilliant at speaking. We've been the best talking club on planet Earth. We need action. We need action from this team, and we got a bit of an action and reaction on Saturday in terms of the dig and the guile and the performance. So I'm hoping to see something similar. Alrighty, cool. Well, thanks for, like I said, my Harry Potter Dungeon solo podcast. Hopefully I haven't rambled on too much. Thanks for sticking with us. Like I said, we will start churning out content back to the usual stuff as well. And yeah, just thanks. So I'll see you all next week, Troops. Corgi rules.